Welcome everybody. This is Rich Brooks and this is another 30-minute webinar by Flyte New Media. Today's topic is, as you can see on your screen, getting started with Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is the proverbial iceberg. Actually, before I start, I just want to say, in these 30-minute webinars, you may have questions. I want you to pose those questions into the questions box, but I will probably not get a chance to get to them until the end. I'm kind of focused on getting all this content in an efficient manner within 30 minutes, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So as we go through, if you have any questions about anything that I'm saying, just go ahead, leave a question, and I'll tackle it as soon as we get to the half hour. All right. So as I was saying about Google Analytics, it is the proverbial iceberg. But as big as it seems, there's always so much more to discover. We could probably do 100 30-minute webinars in Google Analytics and still not hit on all the ways that it can help you make more sense of your traffic. My goal then is to focus on how you, as a marketer, as a consultant, as a small business owner, can better read the tea leaves and start making better business decisions. To that end, I've created back-to-back Google Analytic webinars. That's right, you're seeing part one today. Today focuses on how to optimize your Google Analytics to get the best data possible. And then in about 2 weeks, we'll do another Google Analytics webinar where we're going to dig into the most important reports you can get out of Google Analytics. And when I wrap up today, I'll send you out an email where you can watch the on-demand content, and I'll also have a sign-up registration so that you can sign up for that next class as well, so you won't miss anything. Now, it's important to understand that Google Analytics will never give you an exact picture of what's going on at your website. But the more we optimize this setup, the more accurate and the more telling the data will be. So don't think of this session as some sort of beginner session. This is more like the fundamentals. And the difference is that most people skip the fundamentals, and so they never get the best data possible. And I work with hundreds of small, medium-sized businesses, and almost none of them set up Google Analytics the right way, and we always have to go in and fix things for them. Now, the nice thing is, even though I'm calling this getting started with Google Analytics, you may have a year or 2 or 3 years worth of data. That's great. But what I'm going to do today is show you how you can really make the most of it. Now, hopefully, you just saw my screen change. So if you didn't see my screen change and you're not seeing that bear up there, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. So before we get started, I just want to share with you a framework that we use here at Flyte New Media to help all of our clients make sense of their digital marketing. And it's called the BEAR Essentials of Digital Marketing. And BEAR is an acronym. The B stands for build, or how do you build platforms or websites that turn your visitors into customers? The A is for attract, or how do we drive qualified traffic to our websites? Primarily, it's about search engine optimization, social media, and digital ads. Third, or R, is for retain. And retain is all about how do we stay in touch with people after they've left our website. And the big focus there is email marketing and also retargeting. And lastly, the E is for evaluate. How do we measure and analyze our results? And obviously, Google Analytics plays a huge role in that. It's not the only part of evaluate, because we can get great data also from tools like Crazy Egg that we don't always get in Google Analytics. And of course, our email service providers like MailChimp or Constant Contact give us reports, and Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube all have their own different types of metrics as well. And all of those are helpful in painting a picture that gives us an understanding of how we should be better marketing our business. But the big, most important piece of that puzzle is definitely Google Analytics, and we're going to start there today. Now, you may be wondering who I am. I know some of you know who I am, but not everybody does. My name is Rich Brooks, and I'm the president of Flyte New Media. We're a web design and internet marketing company located in beautiful Portland, Maine. I'm also the founder of the Agents of Change. It's a weekly podcast and an annual conference that brings in speakers from around the world to talk about how to reach more of your ideal customers through search, social, and mobile marketing. I'm also the tech guru on 207, which is the evening news program on the NBC affiliates here in Maine, where I do hard-hitting news stories on things like how to find the best recipe websites online and how to take better pictures with your smartphone. And last year I wrote a book called The Lead Machine, The Small Business Guide to Digital Marketing. So with all that being said, let's dive in to Google Analytics. Now, I originally considered doing this as a live recording, but just figured that it might be easier if I took some still images instead. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to log into Google Analytics. And you can do that at google.com/analytics or analytics.com or analytics.google.com. You're going to log in with your Google username and password. So that's probably your Gmail address and the password you created for it, or at least one that's associated with your business. Once you do that, you're going to see a screen that looks something like this, which is basically a dashboard of some of your traffic over the last 7 days. Some nice visuals, sure, but I don't find it especially useful. Instead, our journey is going to begin in the admin section down in the left-hand corner. Now, once you click on that link, you're going to see this screen. And this is your admin screen, and there's 3 columns: account, property, and view. And as you can see, there's a lot of options in each one, and some of them may be grayed out, meaning that you don't have access to them. And since in the screen captures I've logged in as myself rather than Flyte New Media, there are a couple of things that are grayed out for me, so don't worry about them. Now, the account column is basically about the organization that owns this account. So it's called takeflyte.com, as you can see, but easily it could have been called Flyte New Media or anything else I wanted to name it. After account comes properties. So Flyte New Media could own multiple properties, and you can see the property here is the domain or the website for takeflyte.com. If this was a live performance, I could click on that little down arrow and you'd also be able to see the Agents of Change, the marketingagents.com, the leadmachinebook.com, and a few other domains that are all, or a few other properties, I should say, that are all under that account. And then in the third column, you're going to see view. And view are just different ways of looking at the property to the left. And we're going to spend a little bit of time in view in just a few minutes. Now, if you haven't yet installed Google Analytics, you want to get started with that right away. Because as powerful as Google Analytics is, it can't travel backwards through time. In other words, it only starts collecting data from the moment you have it installed. So what you're going to want to do is click on the tracking info link right there. And that's going to open up a screen that looks like this. And you see that code that's all in blue? It's usually going to have a unique ID number after the UA that's going to be specific for you. And so what you're going to want to do is copy and paste that into your website. You're going to want it to be put on every single page and every single post. Now, obviously, that would be very time consuming, but thankfully, most of us are on content management systems like WordPress these days, or maybe you're on Squarespace or Wix. If so, then there's usually one place that you can put this code, and then it's going to appear automatically on all your pages and all your posts. You can also use something called Google Tag Manager, which we're not going to get into today, as another way of getting this information in there. Now, if you're not sure what you're doing, hand it off to your web developer. And if you don't have a web developer, send me a message after this webinar and I'll hook you up. All right, so once that's installed on our web pages, Google Analytics can start tracking information and visitors at our site. So now let's take a look at that view column on the right-hand side. Chances are you have a view called All Website Data. That's the default setting for any new account on Google Analytics. Now, the very first thing you're going to want to do with this view is create a duplicate of this view and never touch it again. Here's why. You want to protect your data at all costs. And as you get more sophisticated with Google Analytics, you may add filters and other cool options that are going to provide you with better detail, better detail and better data. Unfortunately, it's not difficult to accidentally filter out critical data. If you don't have that original all website data, you may lose that data forever. I know, I've done it, we've done it, I've seen clients do it. One time somebody was trying to focus a view just looking at their blog traffic and unfortunately filtered out all of their website traffic, except for their blog traffic, for an entire month before they realized it. So these are important things you want to make sure you don't make a mistake of, but if you do, you at least have that original all website data. As Google states, because some analytics features fundamentally alter how data is collected or processed in your account in ways that cannot be reversed, you should duplicate the original view before making changes. You heard it here first. All right, so first we're going to click on All Website Data. That's going to open up this little window right here where we're going to click on Create New View. You can see all the views that you have here. In this case, there's only one, All Website Data. So I click on Create New View, and now I've got this screen right here. And by the way, if you feel like I'm going so fast and you're maybe trying to keep up with me or do this on your own, don't worry. Not only are we recording this live, I'm also going to send you separately all the slides for this. So now you're in New Reporting View, and chances are this is going to be for a website, although it could be for a mobile app. Give your reporting view a new name so you can separate it from the original one. And for reasons that will become evident shortly, we'll call this one All Website Data with IP Exclusions. But you could call it FRED for all I care. Make sure that your reporting time zone is appropriate. I have the US Eastern Time, and then go ahead and create that view. Okay, once that's done, we want to check it and improve on it. So I'm going to then click on View Settings in the right or the left-hand column. Now this is for a view we've already created at Flyte, so I'll just kind of walk you through what's going on here. The first thing is I can alter the view name if I want to. The next thing is I'm going to put in the URL that I'm actually tracking. Now, this seems pretty obvious, but it could also be something like blog.takeflyte.com or store.takeflyte.com. The HTTP could be HTTPS and a little pull down, so there are some options here. Again, we could tweak the time zone, country, or territory. Default page, I just leave alone. Exclude URL query parameters, I just leave alone. And if the currency is displayed as US dollar, I just leave that too. The next important thing I want to draw your eye to is the bot filtering. This is not checked off by default, and you absolutely want to check this off. What this does is, again, we want to collect only the important data. And so what we're going to do is we're going to we want to get rid of any data that's not relevant for us. So search engines send bots our way to kind of check out our site. Other services do as well. And there's also scammers and spammers out there who are sending us traffic that really is not relevant for us. It's basically just to kind of ping our site and bounce it off to somebody else so they can say that they're doing work that they're actually not doing. I won't get into the details. It doesn't hurt your website, but again, it just muddies the water. So what we want to do is exclude all hits from known bots and spiders, and all you need to do is just check that box. As we scroll further down the page, we're going to see some more things. We can connect our AdWords account. We also, if you've got a search bar on your website, you want to turn on site search tracking. So click that to on, and then you're going to want to put in your query parameter, which in this case is S. Now you may be thinking, what is a query parameter, and how do you know it's actually S? So it often is S, but not necessarily. So what you want to do is you go to your website, like I have here, and you do a search. So I'm searching for bacon on the Take Flyte website. And then you look at the URL on the resulting page, and you can see it's takeflyte.com/?s equals bacon and submit equals search. It's the S, or whatever letter or whatever word comes right after the question mark is going to be our query parameter. So I take that S and I type it in here. For WordPress, I find that it's almost always S. For some other ones, I see Q. But again, just do that quick test. You'll know what to put in there. And then I usually leave the next two boxes, strip query parameters out of URL and site search categories as they are. And these are really only important, my understanding is, for e-commerce. I should say that there's a million ways to look at Google Analytics, to read analytics, to teach analytics, and I'm trying to provide you with the way that makes the most sense for most small businesses. So the next thing we want to do is control our user management. And you can see right there where I can control it in each view, but you might also notice that there is user management both at the property and account level. You can control it from this level, but we're just going to focus on the view for right now. So click on user management and you'll see a screen like this, and basically you can see that we've already given some people access to this particular account. Up here in the top right corner, I can choose to add more. And when I click on that, I can either add new users or add new groups. And almost invariably, you're going to add a new user, not a new group. So I click on Add New User. I type in an email address. It has to be an email address that's connected to another Google account. In this case, I put in contact.flyte@gmail.com. You probably want to notify new users by email. And then down below, you'll see 3 levels of permissions. And from the bottom up, it's read and analyze, collaborate, and edit. Read and analyze is basically a view only. So they can do a few things more than just look at reports, but not much more. Collaborate allows them to do a little bit more, especially on shared assets. And edit gives them virtually full control of your analytics. So this is important if you've got a webmaster or if you've got an agency like an SEO agency or a marketing agency working with you. You want to give them different levels of access to your analytics. And then down at the bottom, you can see you can also allow somebody to manage users. This is very dangerous, very powerful. So I would never give that kind of level of access to your developer or to their agency unless there's a very good reason to do so, because of course they could actually delete you off the account, and we certainly don't want that to happen. The next big thing up is setting goals. The purpose of having a website, in my opinion, is to convert visitors into customers or leads. We want people to take a desired action at our website. Maybe it's to fill out our contact form, to pick up the phone, or to sign up for our email newsletter, or to make a purchase. Goals in Google Analytics is how we measure our success and get better information about where our best traffic is coming from and maybe where it's falling off. So let's take a look at how we can set up a goal in Google Analytics. So basically, once we click on goal, our screen looks like this, and we click on new goal. And you can see Flyte has a number of different goals that we've set up and are tracking. Some of them are new, some of them probably need to be retired, but we click on new goal. And the first thing we're going to see is that we want to set up our goal, and we can either choose a template or create something custom. Luckily, most of what you're going to want to track here, set up as goals, are in the template. So you can usually start from there. I certainly would recommend starting from there if you're just getting started. And one of my favorite goals to set up is just when people fill out your contact form. So luckily, there's a Contact Us goal already set up under Inquiry. And so we just click on that. And then we move down to step 2, which is the goal description. So I'm going to call this one Contact Us because it seems pretty self-evident. And this is a destination goal. And what I mean by that is when somebody fills out a contact form on Flyte New Media or any of our client websites, they're taken to another page, a thank you page, where we can provide more information, downloads, whatever it is we want to do. But most importantly, it's because it makes it very easy to track who has completed our contact form. So this becomes a destination goal, meaning we're tracking when people get to a specific destination. But as you can see, there's also duration goals, how long somebody spent on our website, pages per screens per session. So, if you want to measure how many, if you want to say it's a successful visit, if somebody visits 5 or 10 pages, you can do that. Or an event, such as if somebody plays a video or downloads a PDF or uses your online calculator. All of those can be considered goals, but we're going to stick with destination in this case. And then the last thing is, so we're going to say where this thank you page is. In this case, it's /contact-thank-you. As you can see, I'm not putting in my domain name. It's just the part of the URL that comes after my domain name. And then I'm going to assign it a value. In this case, I assigned it $750. You may say, why that? How did you come up with that? It's a round number. And basically the way I came up with it is 1 year, a couple of years back, I took our year-end profits and I divided it by the number of times our contact form was filled out, and it was approximately $750. And that's basically how I came up with the value. Yes, sometimes people reach out to us and they start a project because they've seen me speak or they pick up the phone. But on the other hand, a lot of times people fill out our contact forms and it's basically people from foreign countries looking for us to outsource their SEO to them. So, overall, 750 just seemed to be a good round number to say that this is the value of somebody filling out our contact form on average. Obviously, some of them are worth $0 and others are worth tens of thousands of dollars. I chose not to turn on the funnel, but if you have a e-commerce store, I recommend you do turn on the funnel, and then you can put in every step along the checkout counter or the checkout process. So if you find that people are leaving during the checkout process, you can actually find out which page is causing people to leave and then go in there and fix that page so that you get improved conversion rates and sell more product. And then we're just going to go ahead and save this goal. The next thing I want to talk about is filters. And I've mentioned a few times that we want to really hone down on our traffic to get better data. We want to get rid of unimportant traffic so we can really see what's going on. So one of the most important things, I think, is to set up a filter to get rid of our own traffic, because we often visit our websites and we don't behave like our typical client, or our typical prospect. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I click on filters. I'm going to add a new filter. As you can see, I've already created a number of them here, but I'm just going to show you what it would look like if I created a new one. Let's say that I wanted to filter out the traffic from Flyte New Media's offices. So I give the filter a name, Flyte's offices. The filtered type is going to be exactly this. It's predefined as I'm going to exclude traffic from a specific IP address that are equal to, and then I put in our IP address. Now you may be thinking, Rich, how do I find out what my IP address is? Well, just ask Google. Type in what is my IP address to Google, and Google will tell you what it is. You copy that and paste it back into the IP address section right here, and you're off to the races. Now, this only works if it's a static IP address, not if it's a dynamic one. But these days, almost all businesses and most homes have a static IP address, so this trick or this tactic will work. If you're not sure, try checking your IP address 2 days in a row. If it's the same, it's almost certainly going to be a static IP address. Put that in there, save it, and now Google Analytics will basically ignore any traffic from your office. You can also do it from your home office if you spend a lot of time there, but I wouldn't recommend doing it at the local Starbucks. Otherwise, you're going to filter out all the traffic from that Starbucks. Now we've kind of done everything we want to do as far as the way that we're going to set up Google Analytics to get the best data possible, but I want to show you some things in the last few minutes on ways to receive and view the data in the best way possible. So we're going to leave the admin area and enter customization, which is this little circled area I've put right there. So let's get back to dashboards. I said that it wasn't very important, but I meant just their first one. So let's create a dashboard that maybe would be more valuable to us. And dashboards are just snippets of the reports that we're going to go into more in the second session of this Google Analytics. So I click on Create. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Before I click on Create, I just wanted to give you a heads up. So now that we're out of the admin section, we can see more going on here. We have the home where we first arrived, customization where we are now, real time, which is fun, but really doesn't help us. It basically tells us who's on our website right now, but that's not very valuable unless you have loads of traffic. So the 4 areas that we really focus on as small business owners and marketers are audience, who is coming to our website, acquisitions, how did they find their way here, behavior, what did they do when they were here, and conversions, did they take a desired step. But let's focus first on creating a new dashboard. So I click on that Create button, and as you can see here, I can choose between blank canvas or starter dashboard. I could even import from a gallery. Yes, thousands of people around the world are creating their own dashboards and then making them publicly available. They don't share their data just the way the dashboard is set up. Let's keep it simple, but feel free to explore deeper. I'm going to create a new dashboard called Starter Dashboard. So here's what it looks like, and you can see it's called Starter Dashboard, and I've got all the data in there. And as you can see, I can move, well, you can't see, but I can move these things around. These were just the dashboards that have been automatically created. I can edit them, I can remove them, I can switch them around. Let me show you, like, let's say I want to take a look at the new users, but that information is not exactly the way I want to display it. There's something else I want to get out of this. So I click on that little icon there, and I get this pop-up with all these different ways of displaying the information, but I also want to change it. I choose bar chart, and then I say I want to see new users grouped by age. Now there's a million different ways you can do this, but this is just one I chose. I click Save, and now, as you can see, the data is presented completely differently, showing me the breakdown of new users by age. Now, I'm not saying this is the most relevant report ever, but it does show you that you can really alter this to make it make sense for you. A couple of things I just want to point out on this page. I could also add a widget, so if there's a report that didn't get pulled into this dashboard that I like, I can just click on that and bring it in. I can share this with, I mentioned other people share their dashboards. I could share it. I'll skip over email for a second. I could also export it and just save it to a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet and for download. But let's look at this email option. So let's click on email, and then we're going to get something like this. Now let's say you work for the man or the woman, as it may be, and so you want to share some of the data in here, and you know they're not going to go check their Google Analytics. So I want to share it with my president, say. So I type in my president's email address, president@mycompany.com. I give it a subject. I make the dashboard a PDF, and then basically every week I've set it up that every Monday my president is going to get this report, this dashboard, along with a little message from me that says, here's our weekly report on how the marketing team is delivering fresh leads to the sales team. Look forward to my review. Now, you don't need to be as snarky as that, but you get an impression whether you're working with other people in your company, yourself, or with clients, you can automate a lot of these reports and dashboards being sent over to your client. Pretty sweet stuff. Now, I just want to quickly go over a couple of things as we land here into the actual reporting, the audience section. So do audience overview, and by default, Google Analytics shows you the last 7 days. I don't find a lot of relevance in the last 7 days. So what I do is I come up to this top right corner where I see the date, click on it, and it opens up a new window, and I change it to the last 30 days. And then I'm going to hit the apply button, and you can see all of a sudden the data is for 30 days, and you can see where the weekdays and the weekends are. Just because we're a B2B, it's pretty obvious, and all my numbers have gone up. I also sometimes like to see how I'm doing compared to a previous period. Now, the default is the previous month, but I'm more curious to see how I did this time last year. So I shifted over to previous year. Again, I'm going to click apply, and now you can see side by side how I'm doing compared to last year. And down below, it's going to tell me users is up 12.46%, new users is up, sessions is up, so I can see that I'm doing better than last year at this time, which is all great information. And as we navigate through all of the different reports that are in Google Analytics, this side-by-side comparison will continue on. However, I find that a little confusing for right now, so I'm just going to shift back to the 1 month at a time sort of view. I also let's pretend for a moment that on January 29th, there was a huge spike in traffic. Well, maybe I want to remember why that traffic was. So you see this little tab down there that I'm hovering over? That's the annotations tab. So I can go ahead and click on create new annotation. And that's going to open this up, and like I said, we're going to pretend that January 29th had a big spike. So I'm going to go in and type in the date, and then I'm going to say what happened that day. I sent an email newsletter. The visibility by default is shared, but I could keep it private if I didn't want to share it with my team members. And click on save. And now, for anybody who comes to my analytics, who has permission obviously, can see that there's an annotation on January 29th, and if they click on it, they're going to see what it was and who created it. And if I want to hide the annotations again, I can just click on that bar. So that doesn't change any of your data, but it does give you some context around it. And the last thing I want to show you today is segments. So what you couldn't see just because of the size of the screen is Flyte has an embarrassingly high bounce rate. A bounce rate is when somebody visits one page of your website and no others. So to counter that, or to get better data, one of the things I can do is I can create a segment. So here I am, I click on add segment, and I get a pop-up of a bunch of different segments that have been created, and Google Analytics has so many. But let's say I just want to take a look at the traffic that didn't bounce, that visited more than one page of my website. And then I apply. And now I can compare and contrast, and you can see obviously that the bulk of our traffic is this bounce traffic. Now, and here you can see 90% of our traffic bounces. That is in big part because we have over 2,000 blog posts, and a lot of those blog posts answer a question and don't necessarily pull somebody into our website, which is neither good nor bad. It's good to get the traffic. It's bad that they're not converting. But now I can pay more attention to the people who spent a little bit more time at our website, and most of our profits are coming from those people. Most of the goal completions are coming from those people. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. And then if I get rid of the, if I pay only attention to the non-bounce sessions, And then I can go into different reports, and in this report, and we'll get into reports in the next Google Analytics webinar we do, is landing pages, and I can start to see what are the most valuable landing pages for the people who actually are good prospects of ours. People who visit one page and leave are not great for us, but people who visit multiple pages are much more likely to end up spending money with us. And really, at the end of the day, that's what businesses want. So there's a lot of good stuff, and obviously you're probably chomping at the bit to get into the reports, but these are 30-minute webinars, and we are officially over by 34 seconds. So let's just call this one a cliffhanger. That's all the content we have for today. I am looking forward to going through all the reports in Google Analytics with you, or at least all the ones that I think are going to be relevant for your business. And to get to those, basically just tune in. Like I said, we're going to be sending out an email with a link where you can register for the next one. I want to say it's on Wednesday, March 7th. Pretty sure it is. But anyway, so block out that time and be sure to check that out. And right now, we'll just head on over to the questions and see what kind of questions people may have. It looks like my audio is dropped for a few seconds. I apologize for that. By the way, when I record from my computer, so all the audio is there. We've had our account for several years, but I don't see anything in our audience overview. Do you know why? Well, Nicole, I probably have to look at your analytics myself, but very often if you create a new view, that new view won't show any data. So it might be the view that you have. In fact, when I've taught this Google Analytics as a masterclass here in the offices, almost every time that's exactly what it is that you create a new view and suddenly all of your data is missing. It's not missing, it's just in the original view and not in the new one you've just created. People saying thank you, appreciate it, thank you. Look forward to your next one. Great info, really clear, excellent. So does your normal view become the new view you created? I believe Google Analytics will always remember the last one you looked at, so that will just become your default one. If you are if you decide that you do want to create a new view, and that's the one you're going to use going forward to add all your filters on, just be aware that it won't have all the historical data that your all website view might have, but you can always switch back and forth just to get that data and take a closer look at it. I hope that helps. How do subdomains work with goals? Like if you have a subdomain set up in your Google Analytics. There is something called cross-domain tracking that gets a little technical. I will try and find an article on that and include it in my recap. But you can track data when you go from your, let's say, you had a website like mycompany.com and you had your blog set up at blog.mycompany.com and you wanted to track back and forth. You can actually do that using cross-domain analytics. But it shouldn't make a difference in terms of the goal specifically. Any plans on doing a Google AdSense webinar or how to monetize a blog? Definitely we plan on doing one on Google AdSense, but that's probably going to be a little bit off in the future. And then how to monetize a blog. Why don't you send me an email and ask me a little bit more follow-up of the kind of content you'd like for that? Because I am planning on doing a blog one. It was less on the monetizing side of things, but I'm always open to new ideas. So send me an email with some specific questions. I'll see if I can help you out. Do the annotations show on the reports sent to others? I do not believe they do. They only appear right there, but there may be an annotations report. And this is what I mean with Google Analytics. I might say something doesn't exist, and yes, it does. You just have to change a few filters and send things a certain way. But I don't believe that it would necessarily pick up the annotations in that report you send. But prove me wrong. If I switch to HTTPS, is that a problem? That is a loaded question. So there are complexities with switching your website from an HTTP to HTTPS. I don't think that's what you're asking, though. There are benefits to switching to an HTTPS. In fact, for SEO, we recommend everybody switch to an HTTPS website. But I don't believe that just switching from HTTP to HTTPS is going to be a problem within your Google Analytics if you're thinking about that pull down area that I mentioned before. But I will double check that as well and see if I can't get you an answer after the segment's over. You're welcome. You're welcome. How do you make a copy of the all website view? So the way you would do it, there's two ways to do it. And let's just go back to so here we are. If you see right here on my screen, create new view, you can just click on that and then you'll get the new view. You could also, it doesn't show in this sort of thing, but if you're back here and you click on the new site, new website data, and here we are. So when you're in view settings, you can also copy this view. But again, you're not copying any data, you're only copying the way that Google Analytics looks at the view. So you don't get to just like bring all of your data over, unfortunately. If you add the tracker code to your website pages, do you have to manually go in and add it to any new pages on your website? Not if you're using a content management system like WordPress. Then every time you create a new page, it's going to pull in that Google Analytics code for you. Curious as to how the age of viewers is determined. Isn't the IP address the only identifier? Oh, Catherine, if only it were. Google knows almost as much about us as Facebook. So as you have your Google account, maybe a Gmail address, and as you go surfing the web and you are doing searches and doing tracking and entering information, Google's gathering a lot of that information on you. Some of it's guesswork, but most of it's because you've provided that information one way or another. Probably if you go back and look at your terms of service when you signed up for Gmail, it probably said we're going to be tracking everything you do, and we know how old you are. So it's not perfect, and I think if you go in and you look at it, it will often tell you what percentage of people they actually know about the age as opposed to everybody, but it does give you a pretty good picture as a marketer in terms of the age. Is there a way to track individual blog posts? Do we just add that code through Joomla? So, yeah, you absolutely can track every single page and every single blog post on your website automatically. If you're using Joomla, which is like WordPress, in terms of that it's an open source content management system, once it is in your editor, in your code, it should automatically populate to every single page on your site. That way you can track how many times people have visited that, how many times people found it through the search, and a million other things that we'll definitely be tackling in our next session. So any view you create starts with zero history. Unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. I was very frustrated and spent quite a bit of time in the last week or so trying to find some way that I could just duplicate it and move forward, but Google Analytics does not seem to allow that. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I think that's all the content and all the Q&A we have for today. If you didn't get your question answered, or if you think about a question down the road, feel free to hit me up. My email is rich@takeflyte.com. You'll be getting an email from me later today or tomorrow with a link to the full recording, as well as just the audio, as well as just the slides, and maybe some answers to your questions as well. And also registration for the next Google Analytics session that we're going to do, which is really going to dive into the reporting side of things. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.